Hello everyone, I'm Ian from Creative Visuals, and today's video is going to be a bit different than usual. I'm going to be going over the Apple ecosystem, and in particular, why I bought an iPhone XR and returned it 3 days later. So let's get right into the video. So one thing that I really want to get off my chest before starting this video is just, I don't want to start any controversy with this video between the Apple ecosystem versus Android, and I know it will. I know there's going to be people hating on each other in the comments, but please hold yourselves back. Try not to do that. I just want to have a nice conversation about this, tell you guys my thoughts. My computer is currently away getting repaired right now, so I'm going to be editing this on my phone, so if it's kind of crappy, I understand. I'm doing my best. So I'm just going to get right into this, talk about the Apple ecosystem, everything about my Apple products, and the ones I have had and ones I don't have anymore. So let's go. So I think a good place to start with all this would just be regarding the iPhone. So basically, I had to get a MacBook Pro for my college program that I'm going into next September. So along with that, I already had an iPad, so I thought maybe I would try out the Apple ecosystem. So I already have a Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus, and I still have that phone because I actually returned the iPhone XR, as I mentioned. So let's start with the iPhone. I purchased it about 2 weeks ago. I got it in the black color, 128 gigabytes. It's their budget phone, the cheapest iPhone, that's what it is. And it's $750 in the US, but here in Canada, it is $1,100. So that is a lot of money for a budget phone. So right off the bat, I was kind of skeptical about the whole thing, but I wanted to get in the Apple ecosystem, and the only logical one that I could purchase at the moment was the XR. So I went for it. I got it on a 2-year contract from Freedom Mobile, and I got it home and everything was amazing. The camera was great. Yes, there was only one, but the one that it had was great. The HDR was amazing. Video was the best of the best out of like any cell phone camera. And just in general, I really like the phone. iOS, yes, it's kind of limiting. Everyone's looks the same other than their wallpaper. The lack of 3D touch, I've never had an iPhone before, so I wasn't really missing out on anything that I'd had before. I didn't have a problem with that. The screen looked beautiful, actually really good for an LCD. I was really impressed with the liquid retina. Yes, the bezels were a bit thicker than the other iPhones, but even coming from my S9 Plus, it wasn't a problem for me. Face ID I got used to even in the 3 days that I had it, and it was very quick. Very quick even in comparison to the iris scanner, which kind of sucks in comparison. In general, I really like the phone, very snappy. That A12 Bionic chip is absolutely insane. 3 gigabytes of RAM, you don't notice it on a day-to-day basis. It's the perfect size at 6.1 inches, speakers were good. In general, I really liked the phone. But there was one thing that held me back from keeping it, and that in part with the fact that I just couldn't justify spending that much money on a phone that didn't have the features of my S9 Plus, which isn't even as much of it, and it's a flagship. So the one thing that held me back was sadly the screen resolution. And I know there's been so much controversy on this with 720p versus 1080, and it's actually 820 something p. So it's got the same pixels per inch as the iPhone 8 and all that, all the ones dating back to the 6, I'm pretty sure. But at the same time, on a screen that large, if you're not looking at it at a normal viewing distance, it is easy to see. And coming from a Samsung where these screens are absolutely beautiful, it's hard to compare the quality. Yes, the blacks were actually surprisingly good for an LCD, very color accurate, it actually went very bright. But just there was one thing that really threw me off, and that was when I decided to watch a Photoshop tutorial. And I watched it vertically just because I was walking around holding it on while I was out one day. And I could not read a single thing. The quality, there was just not enough quality in the screen for me to see anything. I couldn't tell any of the numbers. And yes, it was a desktop screen. They zoomed in on a few things, but it was still very hard to see any fine details. So I brought it home and I compared it to my S9 Plus, just side by side, and looked at my Instagram feed. I scrolled down it. And at a normal viewing distance, it's not too noticeable, but the best way I can describe it coming from a Samsung to the XR is when you're trying to watch a YouTube video and it hasn't quite loaded yet, or when you're the first one there and it's still just in a lower quality. You just get a hint of that with everything. The home screen looks fine, but as soon as you go into anything, especially black text on a white background or fine details in photos, it's just not the same. And I couldn't justify spending that much more money for something that didn't have a screen that I could watch the sort of things that I do vertically. When I put it horizontally, you could see it a bit better, but I actually had to zoom in, like pinch to zoom, to actually see the fine details, and that was kind of disappointing. And that, along with the price factor, was the reason that I returned the phone 3 days after purchasing it. And don't get me wrong, this is a very niche case scenario, and not everyone is going to have that issue with the XR, and I can see it being a very good phone. Yes, the sales are down and whatnot, but that's just what it is when you put a budget phone at $750. For what it was, for an iPhone, it was really good. I liked it, but the screen, just the quality, not the how it looked. If you looked at it from a ways away and you weren't watching the sort of things that I watch, you're fine. It's a really good phone, but if you get more into the stuff with any fine detail, you're going to struggle to see it. So just beware of that. I'm not trying to diss iPhone. I loved the phone, and I would have kept it if it had a 1080p screen. I would still have it today. I would have sold my S9 Plus. So that is the iPhone. That's why I returned it. I hope you guys understand that sort of and don't kill me down in the comments. I just thought I'd share my experience. So moving on to why I wanted to get in the Apple ecosystem, and that started with the iPad, the iPhone, and the Mac together. And they're a good combo. Like AirDrop, for one thing, is amazing. You can just, if you have a single photo or some text or anything you want to shoot out to a different device, you just AirDrop it to yourself. You're messaging on one thing, you go over to your Mac, you're still messaging with that person. FaceTime, all of those sort of things, they're just so good. They're just so simple, one simple step. But the thing that I found, now that I'm sticking with Android for the time being, is that you can easily replicate these things. You're paying the premium to have a one-step solution for these problems. But in reality, if you want to send a photo to yourself, you can simply upload it to Google Drive, and then you have it across all your devices. You just simply download it. Things like that. Messaging, you can get apps to message on different things. It's just not automatically there like it is on iPhones, Macs, and iPads. So there is ways to replicate these things, just they're not all that known, or just people just don't want to, I guess. But either way, these things that come with the premium of iPhones, you can replicate, and that's what I found, and that's the reason that I'm 100% okay sticking with my S9 Plus, even though I'm not in the Apple ecosystem. So next up, I wanted to talk about that iPad, and that is the fact that until Mac OS or some kind of better operating system comes to the iPads, there's no point in buying the iPad Pro 2018 unless, once again, you're in that niche sort of place. Maybe you're a designer, a drawer, somebody who's illustrating or something with drawing, or maybe music production. But if you're a video editor, photo editor, I still feel like you need a Mac. There's just, the power is there. These things are extremely powerful. The Geekbench scores on them are crazy. Think about how thin they are, and they have that much power. It is insane. But until you can actually use that power, there's no point in buying the iPad Pro, which brings me to my point. I have the iPad 9.7 2017 edition. The 2018 edition brought pen support and an A10 rather than an A9 processor. That wasn't enough for me to upgrade. But next year, if they add this bezel-less or little bezel design to the iPad 9.7, I will be for sure buying that, because you're not going to be paying so much for something with so much power that you can actually use, but at the same time, you're still getting a very good tablet. And in the end, other than maybe not as quite as good speakers and no pro display with the 120 hertz, I don't think it's worth, well, right now, over double the price. So hopefully next year, if they bring it out somewhere under $500, I will be buying the iPad, the next generation with the small bezel, just because I think that's going to be a deal. You're going to get probably maybe an A11 processor, but either way, it's going to be more powerful. But you're not going to have as much power as the iPad Pro 2018, but you can't use that power on the iPad Pro 2018 because it is held back, no mouse support, and no actual like Mac OS or Windows, obviously not Windows, but you know what I mean, no actual computer software on it. So with that out of the way, let's move on to my MacBook 2018. So once again, this is kind of a niche thing, But I upgraded my MacBook Pro 2018 from the Radeon Pro 560 graphics to the new Vega 20 graphics released just a few days ago. I went into the Apple Store and they actually did an exchange for it since my device was over a month, 15 days old. I couldn't return it, but they did the exchange even though it was a month and a half old. And I put the money towards a new MacBook Pro with the new Vega 20 graphics, and I also upgraded my RAM from 16 to 32 gigabytes for 4K video editing because I was struggling and using a lot of swap with 16 gigabytes. So basically that is coming in the mail, and if you guys have any things that you want to see about that, comparing them for gaming, as it seems like this one would be comparable to a 1060 or 1050 Ti's from NVIDIA. If you guys want any gaming things, Premiere Pro, Adobe, After Effects, Lightroom, Photoshop, any comparisons with this setup, the 2.6 gigahertz mid-range model with 512 gigabyte SSD, 32 gigabytes of RAM, and the Radeon Pro Vega 20 graphics, please let me know and I'll make sure to do lots of comparisons as soon as it comes, just to show you guys if it's worth the upgrade, the $400, to get the more powerful graphics card. As the old one, actually, I just found out was just an overclocked version of the 2016 model, which was actually really sad, but I'm happy that they did the exchange. So now I have that power, as this computer is going to have to last me a long time because it was expensive. And I think I future-proofed it at this point, so I'm very happy about that. No more need for an external GPU. So with that out of the way, I just want to talk about the Apple processors and what I think the future of them will be. Because at the moment, if you've seen the Geekbench scores, which I mentioned earlier about the A12X processor in the new iPad Pros, the Geekbench scores are coming within 6,000 of the MacBook Pro 2018 maxed out, which is crazy. In a device like 5.9 millimeters thin, and it's got that much power. Think about when Apple will actually bring their own processors into their MacBook lineup. That will be when I am upgrading in the years to come. Intel chips are really good, but they have to go to a wide variety of things. Same with Snapdragon processors for Android phones. They have to go to a wide variety of devices, so they can't optimize them. But for Apple things, they can optimize the crap out of them. And putting them in a MacBook as well as their iPads would be insane. Maybe a 14X processor or something, A14XS, who knows, whatever the processor may be. I am positive that in the future they will use their own chips in their MacBook Pros, and the power will be insanity. Just think about the scores that these iPads are bringing. Think about what they can put into a bigger chassis, or even make the MacBook Pro chassis thinner. I don't know about that. I think they're already kind of too thin. Like if they just made them a bit bigger, they wouldn't overheat, and they could put better components in them. But at the same time, just think about the future. That I thought that was a quite a big step in the right direction for them in the coming years. And who knows, maybe they will actually get rid of the Mac line completely. Maybe in the future hybrids, iPads, tablets will be the new thing to go with. If they've already made them this powerful with the iPad, like it's more powerful than 92% of normal computers, think about what they can do in the future with that if they added a better operating system to harness the power that, well, they offer now. So with all that out of the way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, just going over some of the Apple stuff. I don't really know what else to make videos on since I can't really edit them other than just on my phone real quick, just kind of cutting and pasting and whatnot. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I would be in many more videos as soon as my MacBook Pro gets back. And until then, stay creative, everyone. Have a great week, and I will see you in my next video. Take care.